Hello and welcome to the Deep Three podcast. This is your host, Matt, joined as always by Kevin and Sam, and a special guest, John. How's it going?
It's lit, baby. We in it. Let's go.
So why don't we start this episode out? Episode 23 that we like to call the Goat's Last Dance. I had no idea that this was actually going to coincide perfectly. It kind of blew my mind actually when I saw that. Sam, what do you got for us?
All right, guys. Since this is the last dance, my last dance was in 2012, prom 2012, all alone by myself. But ladies, look at me now. Let's go.
Repping your OG Steph Curry jersey, baby.
Let's get it. Yeah, before Steph was famous. Let's go.
Kevin, what do you got?
All I could think about while watching The Last Dance is every time I saw Jerry Krause's face, I just kept thinking, I can shit on this guy way more than Aaron Gordon. Thank God I have someone else to just bash.
That's fair. That's literally all I was thinking about while watching the doc was how much I really hate Jerry Krause. I'm gonna have John give us some fire.
Yeah, I'm really glad you guys had me on for this doc about the Last Dance, that second Bulls three-peat. I can really personally relate to that Bulls doc right now because I too am gearing up for a three-peat in a league where I am head and shoulders above the competition. So,
oh God, ladies and gentlemen, John is one. He's my brother, and two, he's also in our fantasy basketball league. And last year, he beat us pretty badly. And this year, he beat us pretty badly. So it's...
Hey, man. Season never ended. All right, he didn't beat us. Season never ended. Asterisk.
Asterisk.
John, do you remember what your record was?
I think that I'm 14-2.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I only
started losing because everyone started fucking sending 1 million people to Brian's team.
That's true. So why don't we? I'm going to start off this episode by just we're going to go with a quick condolence to the Cat family. Unfortunately, your boy lost his mother to the coronavirus. So we're thinking about you guys. We're thinking about everybody who unfortunately lost a family member to the coronavirus. Hopefully things start coming back to normal and we can have some kind of sports in our life. But to all those who have lost somebody, our hearts out to you guys. We're thinking about you, and it's super unfortunate and really shitty circumstances. I guess the question that I have for you guys is, first two episodes of the doc were pretty dope. Is it going to get better? Kevin, what do you got?
It's only up from here. I hope. Spoiler alert, we all kind of know what happens at the end of the season.
You're right. You're not wrong.
It's
Hey,
only going to get
Sam.
more dramatic and more intense.
Hey, Sam, is Michael Jordan the real GOAT, or is it LeBron James? I'm gonna just throw that discussion right your way.
Okay, so you're basically saying get my LeBron jersey out right now, right?
Yeah, right.
I think everyone knows, has listened to me. I've always said LeBron's better than Jordan, right? I've been saying that. I won't lie. I won't deny that. After watching those first two episodes, I never grew up watching Jordan. I don't think any of us did because we're just some wee lads trying to understand the game. But after watching some of those highlights, genuinely mind blown. I think the thing we'll discuss later is just how diverse Jordan's game was, and I think it's still similar. LeBron is still similar, but why you put this question on me? I'm gonna answer it later. I have a better.
All right. Hey, John, when you were watching the doc and you noticed that the Bulls were the underdog against the Celtics, who were just destroying people with Larry Bird and their other three people who made it to the Hall of Fame, was that mind blowing to you that people could actually defeat the Michael Jordan Bulls?
Oh man, no, you got to remember that Celtics team. That was they were warriors loaded. They had Bill Walton's corpse coming off the bench. They had they were fucking loaded, man. That was not super surprising, but it was pretty funny to watch Michael Jordan just get so frustrated he had to drop 63 on Larry Bird's broken, decrepit body. Like, it's like
And
That was
mustache, what a big
probably
mustache he had.
that was probably one of the best things ever. Not to mention
That's
the
crazy.
fact it was wonderful. Not to mention the fact that Michael Jordan played golf with the
Daniel.
very day before. I love it. I love the heat. I love it so much. Hey, Sam, I'm gonna throw it to you. Why don't you give us some updates on the NBA?
All right. Well, as we all know, the season is currently suspended due to the outbreak, as we've mentioned in the past 3 episodes. Yeah, I know it's a big conspiracy. That's what I know it's gonna say. But I know there's been discussion, and I think probably end of April they'll have more serious discussions about how the league can get back started. And I heard one proposal was going to be obviously, continue the season but no fans. Makes sense, I get from that standpoint. But they're asking kind of the teams to rush back, just after 1 month coming together. These teams have been it's going to be almost 2 months away since we'll get the season started back. So it'll be interesting to see, not just how the league, feels about it, but also as the players, they're the ones going to be taking the physical toll, obviously. Kevin, what are your thoughts on this, with the season? Should the season resume, or do you think it's, we're way too far now?
I don't think there's a good answer to that, unfortunately. Like, I think you're going to piss people off either way, or you're going to make some people happy, whatever you do. Like, some people are going to want to play basketball as soon as possible. They want to finish the season. Otherwise, they're going to be left with this big question mark that they're not going to be satisfied with. Like LeBron in LA, he's not going to be satisfied if he can't finish the season and prove how great that team is. Whereas other people, I think, are going to have the exact opposite. They don't want to go back out and play in front of 0 people after 3 months of not playing basketball. Like, I feel like a lot of people's heart just won't be in it at that point. And I don't want to see, I don't even know if it's worth it to watch basketball at that point if half of the league doesn't want to do it.
No, that's fair. That's a good argument. John, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a tough call. You're like getting to a point where, right now, like we said a little bit before we started recording, just like we would be watching playoff basketball right now. So it's just like the timeline's all messed up. Like, people are going to have to start considering, moving the start of the off season, like doing all these things where like at this point, bringing back this NBA season kind of feels like a pipe dream, though. It's just like we've never had to deal with an incomplete grade on a season. We've had shortened seasons, but we've never had one that didn't end with a champion. And so like I see why it's tough for the league, but the longer this goes on, the more I'm like, it might just be time to like look forward. But yeah,
that's fair. Matty Ice, finish us off. What do you think?
I am, first and foremost, if you're going to bring the league back into like playoff form, it's going to be really hard to do when players have not been playing full games for this long of a time period. It's just going to be a pain in the ass. And not to mention that, like, we want to make sure that everybody's healthy, everybody's safe. And like Kevin said, when you're watching basketball games, without their fans, without a crowd in the stadium, it definitely gives off a different vibe. It gives off a completely different vibe because the players, they thrive off of all that cheering and whatnot. And it can change, like home court advantage is a real thing. Like people get pumped and hyped up when you have people cheering for you like that. Personally, do I want to see basketball? Absolutely. I would love to see basketball, but it's like John said, it's kind of like a pipe dream at this point. I think right now we should just start looking forward and, we should start bribing Anthony Davis to come to the Bulls.
No, for sure. I definitely agree with you guys. I think it's a real shame because I think we're seeing peak performances from some phenomenal players, especially with Giannis, obviously an MVP season.
Scary for the Bucks.
Yeah, and very good, title chances, especially with free agency looming.
Mm-hmm.
Not to have a title under your belt, that's going to say something, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think it's a real shame, especially having one of the best draft classes that we ever seen with Zion and Ja, and we're not able to see that talent playoff run. And very average Bam Adebayo. He never gets to see play.
Oh, okay.
Oh my
God.
I see I walked into hostile territory.
Hey man, guy's never been to the playoffs. I can't say much. That's all I
Oh,
gotta say.
wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, John and I might be the biggest Bam hypers out there, and Kevin and Sam just like to shit on me all day long.
Bam Adebayo. Oh, man. You guys are gonna you're gonna be eating your words. You're gonna go.
A player that I prefer is Anthony Davis,
Mm.
right? I mean, obviously, clearly better.
Oh yeah.
There's a rumor that he is selling his home in LA. Coincidentally, just before the documentary was released. Matt, what do we think about this? Is it just utter bullshit, or is this something real?
I'm sure it's utter bullshit because as a Chicago fan, I need to make sure that I'm not hyped about anything at all so that my dreams don't get crushed royally. If this is a legitimate thing, I would be shocked because I mean, the Bulls have nothing to offer except their incredible new coaching changes and staff changes, which has been the one good thing that the Bulls have done in the past 3-5 years. It's been insane. They're finally making good moves. So if somehow Anthony Davis decides to play with the Bulls, I'm gonna think that this is some Vanilla Sky bullshit and that I'm under a sickness or something, and this is all a dream. I'm sure it's nothing, but I mean, who knows? He could just be selling his house for something even bigger. Who the fuck knows?
That's fair. All right, Kevin, I know you're Anthony Davis guy. I mean, you trade him immediately in our fantasy basketball league. So I know you hype him up along with LeBron. Is this duo leaving LA? Is this some Space Jam 3 making right now?
I can't believe I did that. I don't see any reason for Anthony Davis to leave LA. In my mind, with LeBron and that team, it doesn't make sense for him to leave and go anywhere else. He's basically the star of that team other than LeBron. He's going to carry that team, and eventually LeBron is going to retire whenever that is. And if he stays at LA, he's just going to be that franchise player and get paid so much money and be their guy again. And I don't know why he would throw that away. Especially there's no way he would ever come to the Bulls. I don't care if he's from Chicago. There's no logical reason unless they pay him an obscene amount of money and get rid of every other player on their roster.
That's fine.
Yeah.
He can all go. It's fine. I'm wearing my marketing jersey, and I don't even care if he goes. Whatever.
Well, before we go over to John, first off, I need you to redact that LeBron statement, Kevin. Guy can't retire, okay? He's gonna play here.
I'm sorry. Yeah, he's gonna be 53 and still
greatest barrel of wine we'll ever see.
I don't think.
Oh yeah.
I don't think LeBron James will be satisfied until he plays a game where he has the flu and he dominates. I don't think he will ever be satisfied unless that happens.
LeBron's gearing up for a COVID game.
All right, John, what do you think? AD staying in LA or Chicago pipe dream? Here we go.
Oh yeah, AD. Total pipe dream. He's he's just got to chill with the real estate transactions for a little bit. We're all so starved for action right now. It's you remember the couple of days or weeks or whatever it was this summer when there was nothing happening, and so everyone just whipped out their tinfoil hats and they were like, "Oh, Kawhi sleeps with his head facing north. He must be returning to Toronto this year." You cannot be dropping these breadcrumbs in the middle of a pandemic. We are starving.
No, for sure. I mean, you never know, man. The GM's changing in Chicago, man. Got your boy Arturas now.
Yes.
Moves. Yeah, as much as Anthony Davis loves him, right? Obviously, he talks so much about him, all 0%.
All the time.
But, it'd be interesting to see. Maybe he just gave up on LA. He's like, hey, we didn't win a title, all right? Even though the virus won.
We didn't win a title. You promised me a title, LeBron.
He's this is on the bus, family, man. I'm out of here.
Hey, man, it wasn't in the contract, right? It was pending virus epidemic, We'll see. I think some big news for us because we're just desperate for basketball. 2 high school prospects are avoiding college, and they're going to the G League, which is surprising. They're not going overseas. They're going to stay in G League and perform there, especially with the number 1 overall high school player, Jalen Green, and the number 13 Isaiah Todd. Matt, what do we think? Is this a smart move, or what do you think? College, overseas?
Dude, I love this. I think it's I think this is like really cool because they're actually like playing I guess you could say like a professional level basketball instead of, going through the route of playing college basketball with an organization that, let's be honest, doesn't really care about the players. They just care about the school's money, income, and whatnot. I'm glad. I mean, these guys are actually doing something that's going to better their lives. They're going to start making a decent amount of money. This is great. This is awesome. I would love to see more high school players do this. I mean, who was the last player to join the NBA right out of high school? Was that Kobe or
Dwight Howard, maybe?
Dwight Howard?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Like we don't see this stuff happening. And I won't lie. Like the first time that I thought about this, I was just like, oh, but the college experience and this and this and this. And it's just like, it's kind of all bullshit. Like, like who cares at that point? Zion could have been playing in the NBA last year. He really could have. Like, who knows, like he didn't need to go to fucking college. Like, doesn't matter. Like, good for these guys.
For sure. John, what do you think? Do you think G League is better, or do you think overseas ball is better?
Yeah, it's super interesting because I was reading up a little bit about this like G League program, because it's not just like a lot of when people like LaMelo Ball went overseas, they were like playing legitimate games in that league, and they were like right in the action of it, and they're making more money than the G League used to offer. So now the G League's giving them, I think it's like maybe 500,000 or more, something like that, for these contracts for the year, and then all they're doing is they're going to play a certain like set amount of like very controlled games, because they're still like high schoolers playing grown men, and that was one of the concerns that people had.
Right.
And then on top of it, like a major part of this program is just like giving them life skills specifically to like handle being NBA players. So I think it's really interesting. I'm very like intrigued to see how it goes, because for someone like Jalen Green, it's probably not going to make or break him either way. He's the number 1 prospect in the country. Isaiah Todd is the 13th best prospect in the country right now for that year, and that one I think is a little more interesting to track, to see like how effective it is for people who are a little bit further down that recruiting board.
No, that's true. That's a good point. I think, especially with these kids, I know Matt's point, with the colleges kind of just exploiting these kids, not really their money. I think it's definitely a great path for them to take.
Yeah.
I'll also really quick say that it's going to be interesting to see, like John said, how these players develop, because some of these players might not be getting the competition that they need in college, where they could be getting a whole different scope of competition. And you could actually be growing a lot better as a player if you enter in this G League instead of entering in college. Like, it'll be interesting to see how well these players perform.
No, for sure. Kevin, my question is, let's say Jalen Green didn't make his announcement yet. Do you think Isaiah Todd would have said, I'm going to go to the G League, or do you think it's that pressure with the number 1 prospect?
100% the pressure. I don't think a number 13 is going to, on his own accord, make that choice. I think that kind of like you see someone else that you look up to doing it, and you're like, okay, I could do that. I'm still really good. I could do that. But I still think it's a smart choice. Like, I agree with all your points. I think it's awesome that they're doing it. I think the NBA is smart to encourage this, because this is hugely beneficial for them. Imagine if Zion was in the G League and we could watch G League games before. Like,
that would be amazing.
Like, everyone would do that. So I feel like it's going to be something like that, where people like start watching G League games more, just to see these young guys grow up in this environment. So I think it's super smart on the NBA.
Just imagine like Zion dunking on some 33-year-old gym teacher, like just trying to like
exactly. Just absolutely destroying.
That would be amazing.
That would have been awesome.
One game later, and Zion is now in the NBA.
I definitely wish these guys the best. I think it's definitely a smart move, especially being top prospects. Go get your money. Like, if you're gonna leave, if you're gonna be one and done, like, there's no point to going to college. I get with the LaMelo situation. If you go overseas, there's less footage of you, so it makes it hard for some of these prospects, especially with this draft coming up. I think it's probably one of the worst drafts.
Yeah,
probably since like Nerlens Noel was drafted, and we got Anthony Bennett drafted. So that
wow,
was garbage.
That's unfortunate.
Obviously, Towns gotten way better just with AAU basketball also exploiting, but the whole Towns got better as well. So I wish these guys the best. But I think we should do some history review real quick. On this day, gentlemen, a year ago, Dame Dollar boys, Dame Dollar dropped the FU3 on Paul George. Paul George, hands down, man down. All right, we saw that. When we saw that, John, what was your first thing that went through your mind?
The violence. It was one of the most disrespectful things I've ever seen in my life. I've never been so enamored with Damian Lillard. It was legitimately incredible, and it broke that franchise. It completely changed the course of that franchise. It was insane. It was like one of those things when it happened that you knew was special, and then it ended up being special.
For sure. I remember watching that game. I know our group me's keeps texting. I'm just laying in bed. It's probably almost midnight. I'm like, I'm gonna go to bed. And I see this. I literally just jump out of bed, run around my apartment, and then I'm like, I'm too tired for this. But Matt, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
I was pretty surprised. The organization of the Thunder, I was a really big fan of, because when Kevin Durant was still on that team, you had James Harden and whatnot, and you had probably prime Russell Westbrook on that. They were a fun organization to watch, and it kind of just went downhill. So it's kind of interesting to see the Trailblazers, who you can never count out to not make the playoffs or to make the playoffs, because these guys, they'll fight tooth and nail to get that spot, man, and it's wild. And I mean, we were talking maybe a couple episodes ago about who's the more clutch player, and if we're looking at Dame Lillard, he's up there. He's just that shot was absolutely incredible, and he's such a talented all-around player. When I think of Damian Lillard, I don't think of the best shooter in the league, but that was some range that he had on there, man. That was a dumb shot. It was really good.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the interesting thing was Paul George, post game was it's just a lucky shot, dude. It's nothing. And Damian Lillard starts to tweet, and I think it was funny that he did the little meme reference with his face in the dog pile, just looking at the camera, just straight face. Got that
great meme,
actually.
Iconic.
Kevin, what were you thinking?
I think that's why I was so heavily defending Damian Lillard as this clutch shooter, is mainly in part due to that shot. And he's had other shots like that, but that is the number one thing that sticks out in my mind of seeing him make that and just thinking wow, he just single-handedly destroyed an organization of basketball. He just destroyed entirely with one.
And not even that. He destroyed your favorite player, Paul George, as much as everyone knows.
Kevin's favorite, absolutely.
The least clutch player on the Clippers. The guy that will probably drag the Clippers down, most likely. Episode 1. I recommend listening, gentlemen. I know.
Yeah, I did look back at that a little bit in the season. I was
just a little bit.
I wonder, who would you rather take? If you were going on a playoff run, would you rather have Paul George during the 3 weeks when he was in the MVP conversation that year, or Paul George when he was playing LeBron's Miami Heat team in Indiana? Because I kind of want that Indiana Paul George. That guy was fucking crazy.
He's insane.
And his shoulders work.
Yeah.
Right,
remember when Paul George's shoulder worked? What a time.
We have to agree that Paul George does not deserve a shoe. All right, he does not deserve a shoe. LeBron, KD, Kyrie. That's it. Kyrie questionable because he referenced himself as MLK. Different story. About that.
Oh my god.
Last thing I'd like to make note: WNBA draft happened. I'm pretty sure no one watched that besides maybe me. But Kevin, I see you. Yep. Gotta give a shout out to Sabrina Ionescu. It was very obvious. I think well deserved. New York Liberty. They got jerseys on sale, boys. I might have to cop them. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's a very ugly, like, mint toothpaste color, so I'm a little questionable.
Yeah.
Man, I know you're a hype fan for her, so what do you got? Any thoughts for her?
I'm pumped. This is awesome, man. Like, all power to her. I hope that she gets the money that she deserves. I hope that maybe she can do something with the WNBA, maybe make it like a lot more popular or what have you. Like, so like this is one of the youngest people that Kobe endorsed. Like let's see this legacy go on for as long as we can. Let's see her shine and be the better player that she was meant to be, because she is awesome. She's a fantastic player, and I would love to watch her play more.
For sure. And I think I'd like to make note that she's the first D1 player, men and women, have 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, 1,000 assists. That's unreal, right? That's unreal.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Stupid. Fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I guess that's it with NBA updates. Matt, do you want to take over for the main topic, or?
We've got some thoughts on the last dance, baby, and I actually have something.
Oh man.
Is it a dance, baby?
We've got some MJ, baby.
Ooh.
I got this a long time ago, and I was just like, oh, I'm going to need this for a reason. And here we are. So, boys, this was really, I'm typically not a big documentary guy, and this was fun. This was actually a lot of fun to watch. Michael Jordan gave the green light after the 2016 Cavs title parade. A little bit of a hint, hint, nudge, nudge right there. But why don't we go right into the doc? John, what was the craziest thing about this documentary that hit you? Because, I mean, as you guys know now, we're pretty young, we're millennials. We weren't able to watch prime Michael Jordan or just Michael Jordan in general. So this new documentary was like opening up whole new things for us. So what was the craziest thing that you saw out of that, John?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like pretty interesting. I think like, I don't know, I've watched my share of Jordan footage. I think like the most interesting things for me were probably like the absolute just like vitriol that he spits towards his front office starting like his second year in the league. And then like the other thing that really like stuck with me the most that I don't know if I knew or maybe I forgot about was just like Scottie Pippen's contract was genuinely terrible. And I I think actually Scottie Pippen's contract is the thing that stuck out the most. I've always known Michael Jordan's an asshole, but like it was pretty dark. It was like 7 years for like 18 million or something. That was a joke. Like that was terrible.
Sam, what did you think when Reisendorf sat him down and said like, hey, this is your contract, sign it or you're done? What did you think of that?
I think it was interesting. He was like, if you sign this, like, you're going to be really dumb. Like, he was literally saying, like, don't sign this. It's bad. His agent, Jimmy Sexton, absolute garbage agent, okay? Like, terrible. He screwed up his entire rookie deal. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? I think we all watched it. I had no idea about Scottie's, like, family life at all.
Mm-hmm.
It had 2 people paralyzed. That's crazy. So he probably felt the initial pressure to, send money back home, make sure to get all my money right now up front, and then you can start, diluting ever. And it was kind of interesting because, probably around the 95 season, that's when the cap, CBA was signed again, and the cap went up by another 44%, right?
Yep.
And so Reinsdorf's like, well, I'm not going to change that deal, and you stuck with it. So it's a real shame that we're still seeing to this day like Reinsdorf's mistakes. Luckily, management's changed now, but it took him another 18 years again after Jerry Krause. So,
Kevin, was this probably one of the biggest like fuck yous to a player that you can think of? And I think the reason why this is so insane is because Scottie Pippen was one of the best players. Like, he was such an incredible player. I think when they gave the stats of when he started basketball and like in high school when he played, he like grew like exponentially like the very next year, and he just started balling out like no other. Like, Kevin, I think it's obvious that Pippen didn't deserve this contract, but like, is this probably one of the worst deals that you've seen?
Oh, it's a garbage ass deal. But I don't know if it was necessarily personal. I think the Bulls management were just like, well, you signed this, so we're just gonna stick with it. It wasn't like they had it out for Pippen or anything like that.
Right.
But I think any other management system would probably have helped him out a little bit. And
Probably renegotiated that deal.
Yeah, one to get on his good side, saying he was the second best player on the team. Like, I don't know. It just blows my mind that like, it's
Absolutely.
It doesn't seem when we watch it like this. Like, it really doesn't seem like any of this could have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you saw this happening nowadays, they would be like, "Nah, I'm out. See you, dude. I'm gonna get traded like as soon as possible." Like, it's wild how much the NBA has advanced ever since those days. Because back then it was very much so team oriented, and while basketball is always a team game, now it's kind of more so the players getting what they want, more so than the team and the organization in general. So
you never see a 7-year deal today. Yeah, like I think the max
never.
Is 4 now, right? 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. I think the most shocking thing to me was probably Jerry Krause. Boys, this fucker, man, I could not have kind words for what this guy was doing. Sam, why don't you help me out here? Do you think this guy was doing a good job, or is this guy bad? Bad dude.
I think he reminds me of Commissioner Stern. Rest in peace, of course. He had a phenomenal first half of his career and an absolute garbage second half, right? It's like a presidency. Second term's absolute garbage every time. Can't help it. I think we have to give Jerry Krause some props. He did make the trade for Scottie in '87.
Yeah.
For a kid from Central Arkansas who didn't make the team because he was actually the ball boy for a little while, that's kind of crazy to take that kind of gamble.
Yeah.
But I think we know so far in the documentary, obviously we don't have his side of the story, he's no longer alive, but I think he started a hero, but he ended up turning out to be the villain in the end. It's like a Joker concept, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good comparison. I'd probably have to agree with you on that one. John, do you think his the good things that he did outweighs the bad things that he did?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like, everything that he did put together, like, 2 versions of a team that had 2 3-peats in 1 decade. Like, so, of course, like, I think Jerry just, like, has a little bit of, like, an Icarus syndrome, man. He was just, like, I think that he just, like, really was nailing it for quite a while there, but then he just got a little too, like, a little too much, like, fuck you, I built this, which is what the documentary seems to be like. The narrative they're pushing is like, okay, like, Jerry felt like he was getting not enough credit for the success of that team, and since we're only pretty much hearing from players, it's like a lot of the players being like, well, like, yeah, we were the ones playing, fuck you, Jerry Krause, but, like, he did build a lot of what was there. I just think that he eventually, like, a big part of, like, any successful operation is just making sure that you're having, good communications with the people underneath you, and, like, having a nice corporate culture. And Jerry Krause is more interested in his own legacy than he was in the continued success of the Chicago Bulls near the end.
Yeah, I think what blew my mind was, Kevin, and you can give some insight into what you thought about this, when he went to the head coach and basically said, hey, this is after this year, you're out. I don't care what happens. If you win, whatever.
That's what I was going to say. My biggest, like, mouth open moment during that whole documentary was hearing them go to Phil Jackson and being like, I don't care if you win 82 season, you're gone after this year. That is the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard in my life. I still, again, that's something, like, I'm looking back and watching this and being like, how did this happen? How did they hate Phil Jackson so much to not even, like, care what he did? And he went on to win a championship that season. And, like, it's so dumb. So dumb.
I don't know about you guys, but So the last time, let's think about this for a second. The last time that the Golden State Warriors won a championship, that was what, 2 years ago?
Yep.
Would you believe that if anybody in that organization went up to Steve Kerr before that last championship and been like, hey, you know what? We're kind of sick of winning, man. Like, after this year, you're done. Like, that's just mind-blowing shit. Like, I did not. When you have a winning culture in your organization, you don't just get rid of one of the people who is helping you with that. It's just, I think that is one of the things that blew my mind the most about this documentary. I was just like, what the hell? It was absolutely insane.
And what does Phil Jackson go on to do after he leaves the Bulls? Go to coach the great Lakers team with Kobe and Shaq. Wow.
An iconic run with the Knicks in the.
Oh, good Lord. So why don't we go on to the next thing? I'm gonna jump around a bit, and so one of the funniest things about this documentary has to be the Bulls traveling cocaine searches. I don't know about you guys, but what a name that is. John, when you first heard that, were you dying laughing? Because I was.
Yeah. I thought that was rad. That was just a product of the times, man. It really had MJ coming across looking like a narc, but it was, but yeah, that was pretty crazy. I'm like half surprised and half like, oh, it's just a really shitty NBA team who's always on the road and like just wants to fucking party. Like, it was like, like, I get it, but man.
When they went through that, I was picturing a young Michael Jordan just walking around the hotel, just knocking on doors, just being like, where are my friends? Where are my friends?
Come shoot free throws with me, fellas.
Hey, you guys want to play a 1-on-5? I need to test my ability. Oh, what's that? Oh, shit. You know what? You guys are doing cocaine and weed. Yeah, I'm not about that life. It was pretty wild, I'm not gonna lie. And just the title of that was absolutely hilarious.
Traveling cocaine circus.
Yeah, seeing Michael Jordan's reaction to that was absolutely wonderful. So why don't we go back into Scottie Pippen? So he was one of the best players to play the game. He was absolutely incredible talent. He had really great ball handling skills, as tall as he was, as big as he was. And he just knew how to play with Michael Jordan so very well. Sam, obviously there was some back and forth so far. I'm sure we'll see more of it as more episodes come out. But as far as Scottie Pippen, sitting out and getting that surgery like super early, do you think it was selfish of him?
Look, when it comes, once you're doing a hobby and you're making money off of it, you can be selfish as much as you want. Everyone's here to exploit you. They obviously did to Scottie, right? They're like, they probably had some prediction that the cap was going to go up. So let's get probably, fourth best player in the NBA at that moment. Probably like Charles Barkley and Hakeem, even Patrick Ewing at that time, which is time for a stupid cheap deal. So I don't really blame Scottie. The only thing I'd say would have been risky was just getting the surgery too late, right? Once things start healing in an awkward way, you're not the same player. Luckily he does get paid way later. Sadly, not with the Bulls. But I think you have every right to be selfish at that point. Once you put, once you're literally, breaking your balls for this team, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And you see that a lot more nowadays. Like we said, nobody signs a 7-year contract anymore. It's absolutely unheard of. If I heard a player getting a 4-year contract, I would still be like, huh, like that'd be kind of interesting to me, because all we see nowadays is about a 1 to 2 year contract with some wiggle room in there. And I would probably have to say personally, I don't think it's selfish. Kevin, Michael Jordan had some different ideas. How do you feel about what Michael Jordan was saying?
He's just a little baby because he was losing games
I
without
think he's for the
Scottie
people
Pippen.
there.
Like he just has that mentality of like, I need to win no matter what. I don't care what I have to do to make that happen. And the fact that Scottie Pippen didn't 100% agree with that mindset drives him crazy and makes him mad. And he's like, oh, it's selfish. No, it's like I am totally on Scottie Pippen's side. And
John, the new title of this episode is going to be Kevin Said That Michael Jordan is a Baby. Do you think we're going to get the most hits out of any other episode that we've released?
Yeah, I think very much so. I think there's a lot of people out there who have something against Kevin, and I think this is really only going to embolden them.
Hey, Kevin, let's start it, boys.
John, I would like, in all seriousness, though, I would like to hear your opinion about this. I know Steve Kerr said that no one resented Pippen after the surgery. Obviously, Michael Jordan had, I think, a very overly emphasized attitude about winning, and I understand why. And we saw that winning mentality and how well it gave the Bulls all these championships. But how do you feel about the whole Scottie Pippen situation?
I mean, I think that the truth probably lies somewhere between what like Steve Kerr and Michael Jordan were saying. I'm sure that people were like, "Oh, Scottie, it would have been pretty nice if you could have gotten that a little earlier for us." But at the end of the day, they all know what his contract situation was like. They know he's the 6th highest paid player on that team, and like that, so I'm sure that most of the people on the team agree with Steve Kerr that there was not a lot of animosity. I'm sure there was some mild frustration, but you could tell, like watching the Jordan interview part of that he was just like seething, like it all came back to him, and he was like, "Oh, I can't believe that motherfucker did it to me."
How dare he not want to take a pay cut for our wins?
Yeah. I mean, I told and kind of like what Sam was saying, it's just like Scottie gave so much of the franchise already, and the franchise wasn't willing to wiggle for him at all. So, if he needs to take a little power in some sort of way, it's his body, and he can decide when he wants someone to cut it open. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
I could add real quick is that from Jordan's, viewpoint, it's kind of easy to say that when you're the highest paid player in the league.
Yeah.
You have the shoe endorsement. You got the McDonald's endorsement. You got the Gatorade endorsement. It's easy to say that when you got all the money coming your way.
Space Jam.
Absolutely, man. I totally get it. Michael Jordan's mindset is just otherworldly. You don't really see that now. You don't even really see that with LeBron. Like, obviously he has a winning mentality, but he also understands like when he is getting screwed or when he like can do better at different places. We've obviously seen that when he left Cleveland for the Heat, when he left Cleveland for the Lakers. Rest in peace, Cleveland, forever and ever. But, what really jumped out at me was the fact that Scottie Pippen was the 6th like highest on that team. Like, that's just because whenever I think of Scottie Pippen, I always think of the two. He was Michael Jordan's Robin, like they said in the documentary. Like, how the hell are you gonna do him dirty like that? It's absolutely insane. So, with all of this Michael Jordan talk, obviously we've seen more clips with him. Maybe some of us have seen him play a little bit more than what we've seen in the documentary, but early Michael Jordan, dude knows how to ball out. And as you saw, there were a lot of like spot up twos, a lot of spot up mid-range shots that he took. And you really don't see that at all nowadays. You don't see that in this league. It's so polarizing. It's so very different from what you see nowadays with the 3-point shot. Kevin, what would you have to say about early Michael Jordan? Let's just say first couple of years.
I love watching early Jordan so much. Those highlights from that Celtics series are so fun to watch. Like, literally him just going from like the corner, posting up, driving in, and making like a 20-foot shot, no problem, no questions asked, 30 times a game. It's so cool. It's so awesome to watch because we don't have anyone like that in the league right now that does that or that would want to do that for any reason, because that's just not the style of basketball now. And I get that. But I feel like it's a totally different type of entertainment watching young Jordan and that type of play. And we really don't see that. I don't think we saw that since him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like, I mean, we all grew up with watching Kobe Bryant and watching the Celtics with Ray Allen and Paul Pierce and, Kevin Garnett and Shaq. And, we saw all these incredible players, LeBron James, one of the best players of our time. And it's really weird to hear that another player is better than LeBron James, but because of how well that he's played, because he's a madman. He's absolutely insane. But if we had to take Michael Jordan and just like take a wild guess as to whose play style is anywhere even relatively close, I've been hearing that people are starting to compare Kawhi Leonard and Michael Jordan. That's the big comparison that I've been hearing. John, what do you have to say to that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think a lot of it is because Kawhi has like a lot of very similar post moves to Michael, and that was kind of where he was making his money in the late 90s. Like a lot of it was just like some very efficient post moves. He was like, as a two guard, one of the best post scorers in the league as far as efficiency goes. And like, so Kawhi does a lot of that stuff as well. They're both all-time great defenders. I kind of personally like still feel a little more like the Scottie and Kawhi comparison is a little more apt, but I think that I do think Kawhi is like a much more well-rounded offensive player than Scottie, especially now that he's learned how to pass the ball a lot more. Like he's become a much more efficient playmaker in the past year. So I think it's an interesting comparison, but I think there's other people where like we have a lot of guys who were, really lived in that 2-point like mid-range area. People like Kobe and people like even Russell Westbrook or Chris Paul or
DeMar
DeRozan, Dirk, like all those people who like lived by that mid-range shot, like that really like kind of molded their game very specifically after Jordan. Where like, but totally, I see that comparison, and I've heard that one too. And it's because like you'll see like the cool like side-by-side shots of like Kawhi doing some like crazy spin move into that like patented MJ fadeaway jumper. Like,
yeah, absolutely, I agree. That is a better, interesting comparison for Scottie Pippen and Kawhi. That definitely makes a lot more sense to me.
They're just so long. Scottie has like a 7'3" wingspan. Like,
it's so insane.
Like,
it's so insane.
And that's how Kawhi is too. He's a freak.
He's a freak. He really is. The dude's body literally cannot handle what Kawhi is trying to do to it. It's really funny and crazy to see that. Personally.
I mean, he definitely moves a lot like late 90s Jordan. Like Kawhi is already like pretty hobbled. Like,
yeah, absolutely, 100%. Sam, I saw some disdain when I said DeMar DeRozan. Is there anything you want to say?
Hey, man. Hey, I got new management. We'll send him to Chicago. Got a free deal. Hey, give me first-round picks. Come on. You know you love it. Come on. He's an all-star. Come on.
We'll take LaMarcus back.
Hey, man.
Go full circle. Yeah.
We'll do what we need to do. And hopefully with the new be bad. That's what the Bulls is now. That's their culture. It's be bad. It's some crazy stuff to see Michael Jordan playing back then. I know it was really mind-blowing for me to see that because I didn't really watch any footage of him playing until recently, and it's just the dude's got insane hops. Like, holy shit, he really gets up there. When I saw that of him, I think it was when he was in college and he jumped up to block a shot and his head hit the backboard. I was like, what the fuck? That's insane. It was absolutely mind-blowing. I really can't wait to see more about this, but the biggest question that we all have to take back from all of this, and we're going to be talking about this multiple times throughout this doc, what it means to be the GOAT, what it means to be the best player in the NBA. So I'm going to throw this to you, John. A, what does it mean to be the best player in the NBA? And B, can you name, like, give us your opinion of who is the best right now?
Who is the best player, like, currently playing? Or...
Yes.
Oh, well, I think so, being the best player in the NBA usually, like, revolves a lot around, like, are you a winning player? You're usually going to be, like, a very high scorer and a very efficient scorer, and especially now, like, a pretty, usually, like, it's someone who's also, like, a fairly, like, gifted playmaker on the side of it all, and, like, I think it's so interesting because, like, there's not really anyone who's, at least, like, accolade-wise, super comparable to Michael Jordan, like, in the league right now. Like, LeBron
Right.
is, of course, like, the closest one. But even then, like, MJ's a 10-time scoring leader. Like, he's, like, he's got the DPOY, the, like, all-defense teams. I think that, like, man, it's tough. I would say, like, just kind of based off of the last time we saw playoff basketball, I kind of am leaning towards Kawhi Leonard. But if you wanted to say, there's, like, the cool thing about the league right now is that there actually legitimately are, like, if someone wanted to make a case for Kawhi, if someone wanted to say it was still LeBron, if someone wanted to say it was Giannis, if someone wanted to say it was KD, like, there's legitimate cases for all of those people. Which is, like, not a very fun NBA Twitter answer, but, like, it's
Right.
But like, if it was me, I would probably, if I was trying to, like, win a championship this year, I'd probably pick Kawhi.
That's fair. I like that. Yeah,
Just
Kawhi
like,
Leonard is
efficiency.
incredible.
He can defend anybody. He's a much better playmaker now, and he's got ice in his veins because that's how he was programmed in a lab 28 years ago.
Absolutely. He is definitely Kawhi Borg, 100%. Sam, I'm going to throw the same question to you.
All right. So first off, I didn't know resting was part of the criteria. Half the season.
I really like it's circadian rhythm over replacement is my favorite stat.
Once again, are we forgetting LeBron James, ladies and gentlemen? The finest wine, all right? The finest wine possible. Probably his fifth version of peaking, different forms, right? We had pure scoring LeBron. He took a 2007 Cavaliers team to the finals. That team is shit. That is an absolute garbage team. Michael Jordan had a team, okay? At least 3 players. Yeah, at least 3 players, all right? They got rid of Oakley. All right, that's fine. But they got Scottie. They got the Worm, right? Steve Kerr. I mean, that's stretching that. Steve Kerr is like Alex Caruso nowadays. But for me, I don't think championships make much sense because championships are a team accolade, right? That's out of it. Scoring, scoring title obviously matters. If that's the case currently right now, it'd probably be KD, maybe James Harden if you're gonna call that a GOAT. But right, those guys don't really play defense that much. One guy's missing Achilles.
KD probably not anymore after the Achilles, but KD played some pretty good defense in those Golden State years.
Okay, I know it's easy to join the 73 and 19. Okay, that's Jordan. Okay, but I think from our last episode, we built what it means to be an ultimate player, and my thing was I think size does matter. So right, if you're gonna have a GOAT discussion, right, we see every Clutch Points does it. They always have like a matchup between LeBron versus Jordan or Kobe, like who would win, right? So it's always a 1v1 matchup. Who would win there? It's got to be LeBron, right? He's got the physique for that. So when it comes to, maybe it's not considered good, but maybe when it comes to, hey, when I think NBA basketball, what's the player I would think of? I think LeBron James, right? It's just, that's the physique I'd want. That's the facilitating ability I would want.
Can do it all.
Yeah, he kind of has it all. Kawhi could have it if he didn't get injured, right? Hey, he'd be on the Spurs. I wouldn't be happy a lot. I wouldn't be with DeMar DeRozan and get his garbage aspect gameplay. But I guess to answer your original question, who would be the GOAT? We'll see. I gotta finish the documentary first. All right, I gotta finish the episode.
Oh yeah, if I'm like full stop GOAT, I definitely am actually like still leaning towards Jordan.
Yeah.
One like quick interesting stat I found because I was just like looking through a bunch of crazy Michael Jordan stats. Like there are 2 players in NBA history to have a career usage rate above 30% and a turnover percentage rate under 10%. and they are Dominique Wilkins and Michael Jordan.
Wow.
Fucking crazy.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
That's
crazy.
insane.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's wild. Yeah, I mean, like, it's hard to say anybody is the GOAT over Michael Jordan. Like,
LeBron's a good case, though.
yeah, LeBron is a very good case. I will give you that, absolutely. But we'll continue to watch the doc. We'll continue to see everything. Kevin, what is your opinion? Who do you think is the GOAT right now, and what defines it?
I don't know. I kind of go back and forth. I think, honestly, I think part of being the GOAT is getting better every year. And I think that's something we haven't really talked about. And I think we see that. The biggest thing we see that in is two people, is LeBron James. Somehow at his age, he's still getting better every year. And we see it in Giannis.
Yes.
Look at Giannis when he started in the league, just physically compared to what he is. He's literally like a twig compared to where he's at now. And I think he still maybe hasn't hit his peak yet. He still is going to keep improving. He still is going to get stronger. So maybe he's not quite at GOAT yet, but he is 1 year, 2 years out from being the best player in the league, I think.
I think he's only like your age, right, Kevin? Giannis is yeah.
Woof. That's kind of depressing to think about once you go down that rabbit hole.
Right? Yeah, he's 5 years old. He is he was born a week after me, so
yeah.
Hey man, like I tell everyone, if I was 6 inches taller, we would not be doing this podcast. All right, okay, I'd be one of those trophy kids. All right.
Oh yeah, 100%, absolutely. I definitely think you can make the case for all of these guys. I think the one person that I'm going to be watching for this whole GOAT discussion is probably going to be Giannis, just because we progressively see him getting better and better and better. And the one question that I think we had coming into the season is, can he shoot the ball? Because he never really took threes last year. He never really risked all that shot percentage and whatnot. But you saw him starting to take more of those 3-pointers. And the fact that he's even taking them is a very good sign. I don't really, in all honesty, if he makes maybe 2 threes in a game after shooting, I don't know, he can shoot as many, but if he can create that kind of spacing, his game is automatically just MVP, I mean, back to back, I would give it to him right there, because the dude's incredible. He's an athletic monster, and he only gets better. And the one thing I will say, you do see a really strong winning mentality with Giannis. You hear stories about how Giannis was with the USA team, even playing with other players, and he was just like, I don't want to play with. After this is done, I do not want to play. I do not want to practice with you. I do not want to do this with you, because you are the opponent. You are the enemy. I want to get better with my team. And you don't really see that nowadays, like you did with Michael Jordan. So who knows?
So
Who knows?
You're basically saying that if I make 2 or 3 3-pointers in a game, Ben Simmons could be MVP. That's what you're saying. That's what you're totally saying.
Honestly, maybe. That could really change things for him.
I think Ben Simmons is probably, it's so funny because he's one of the players that people shitting on the most, one of them, but if he actually shot the ball and made the shots, wasn't he supposed to be the next king of the game or something like that?
Hey man, hashtag trade Embiid. That's all we gotta get done.
Trade Embiid. That's some good shit.
Can't wait to see how Joel Embiid would look coming back from this break, man. Him and Nikola Jokic and Zion.
Zion with beignets, man. I'm telling you.
I swear to God, if Luka gets bigger, first season Luka, I'm gonna be mildly upset.
I can't blame my boy for that. After the year he's put up, he deserves.
Oh my God!
Leading the most efficient
right.
offense of all time.
John is the ultimate Luka fan.
Do love my boy Luka.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, boys. This was a pretty great start to the documentary. I'm pumped to see what comes next. Jon, thank you so much for joining us on
Yeah,
this
thanks.
episode.
It was fun.
We'll probably have you on for a few more because, Chicago fans over
I
here.
got nothing going
But
on.
we'll negotiate.
Yeah.
All right, it might be 2 million over 7 years if that's cool.
That's totally chill. Yeah.
I'll take 2 million over 7. Well, thank you guys so much. This was wonderful. This is a great episode. If you guys want to listen to us we're on all podcasts.
Sorry.
What was that, Sam? What was that?
Don't worry about it. Shameless plug. Is that what you said? Shameless
Yeah. Shameless plug. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Twitter at the Deep 3 Pod. If you have any questions for us, you can go ahead and email it to us at the deep3pod@gmail.com. And yeah, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you guys so much for listening and watching us, and have a great night. Peace out.
Bucks and six.
Ooh.